Alright, hey everyone. This is my second video, the short version of how to make a box and whisker plot in Excel. I did another video, it's a full description and reasons why I took this direction and blah 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 whatever else, and it turned out to be 40 minutes, so probably no one's going to watch it. So I'm going to attempt to keep this short, within maybe 5 to 7 minutes. So to get started, this is what I'm going to generate here. Excel 2016 they did include the option to generate a box and whisker plot, which was not available in previous versions. It's under the insert statistic chart category here. So you choose box and whisker. But there's a couple issues with this. One is that you can modify the shading of each of these plots here, and you can modify the border color, but that's really it. You can't, if you see over in my previous version, I have the red box with no border, I have the hatched lines for the whiskers, I have an open circle for the outliers, a solid black bar for the median, and X for the mean data point. All of these are modifiable in the way I'm going to show you, which you cannot do in Excel 2016. So you're kind of limited. If this meets your needs, fantastic. If not, then if you need more versatility, then you can do what I've been working with. Another thing is the actual plots are not modifiable in Excel, and we don't really know how Excel is calculating and working with your data. So these whiskers, we don't know exactly what these represent. I mean, you can hover over here and see which data point it is, but we don't know how Excel is calculating everything, and we don't know what Excel is considering an outlier. And most importantly, you can't modify any of this. So what I'm going to show you how to do is you can have these be basically whatever you want, which is why I took this direction. I couldn't find any other videos on how to do this. There might be some in existence. I couldn't find them. If there are, then I potentially wasted my time. I don't know, but I couldn't find anything, so this is what I did. So the way I made this is by using an XY scatter plot in Excel. And you can also do this in PowerPoint. But just for the purposes of this, I'm using Excel. Just a quick, the concept behind this is each of these actual box and whisker plots is a total of 6 XY scatters that are on top of each other. So here, just to show a quick example is this is a single vertical line. You can modify the width of this, the color, you can have a solid versus hatched. You can modify the actual data points and the markers. So if you have multiple plots on top of each other, you can end up with something like this. So what I did is, here is my full data set. This would be considered two groups. So the group name is in column A. These could be groups of patients. Group 1 is we could say, treatment 1. Group 2 is treatment 2, and you're comparing the two of them. Column B is the variable in question here, and each row would be considered an individual case. You have the group name and then the actual value for the variable. So what you need, and this kind of makes it a little bit tedious, but this also allows you to do whatever you want with the data and have it present however you want. So what I have here is these two columns, D and E, are going to be my first box plot, and G and H are going to be the second. So in my sample here, I have a total of 5 box plots. In the example here, I'm just going to generate 2 of them, just because they're all going to be repeats of the next. And if you get the idea, then you can, that's really all you're going to need to get from this. So what I have is multiple series that I'm going to put into the XY scatter. One's going to be the high whisker, and then you have the IQR, which is Q1 and 2. I'm sorry, Q1 through Q3. The lower whisker, the median value, and these two, these will make sense once I get to that point. But the median value is here, the mean, and then these calculations I used to determine what is going to be considered an outlier. And so for this one, these are just simple calculations. The interquartile range is 173. 1.5 times the interquartile range added to Q3 and subtracted from Q1 gives you the upper and lower limits, which are my values here. For group 1, my lower limit is negative 0.3795. And if you look at my data set, I have this sorted from high to low. In group 1, the lowest data point is going to be negative 0.55, which is lower than this lower limit, which would be considered an outlier. I put these extra two outliers in just for the sake of having them visible on the graph. So these are not actually part of my data point. I just threw those in to show you what multiple outliers look like. But this is my actual data point here. So from B2, negative 0.55, falls outside of this upper and lower limit. So that would be considered an outlier. So that being said, the lowest data point, which would be my low whisker, is negative 0.16, which is the low point on the lower whisker of negative 0.16, so they match. So anything that falls within this upper and lower limit, the min and the max within these values are going to be my high whisker and my low whisker, and then anything outside of these values are going to be my outliers. And I just repeated the same thing for group number 2, which is the data set down here. So in order to create this, we go up to Insert and XY scatter. Move this over just a bit. And then from here, go up to Design, and you have to do these individually. But once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. It just takes a little bit of time. So we're going to add a series. This series we're going to call uh, the IQR. And the X values, since this is from group 1, the X values are all going to be the same since we want these vertical line plots to be on top of one another. So the X series values are going to be 1, and the Y values we're going to choose from the IQR. We're going to hit OK and OK. And here we have a vertical line which represents our interquartile range, which is going to be Q1 and Q3. Now, this is a vertical line right now with markers. We want this to look like a box with no markers. So the way we do that is you kind of have to trick Excel into displaying this the way you want. So we're going to go over to here. First off, we're going to get rid of the markers. So marker options, we're going to choose none. Those go away. Then we go over to the line. We're going to choose a solid line. And the boxes in my other example were red, so we're going to choose red as the color. And here's the trick. So you take the width and you just increase the width to, we're going to say 50 for right now. And if you see here, these are rounded off at the edges. So cap type, I don't know what that means, but I know that that has to do with the edges. Right now they're round. If you change that to flat, it turns it into a box. So basically, this is a vertical line, a very, very wide vertical line. And again, we chose the color and the width of 50. And we got rid of the markers. So here is our IQR. And one other thing we can do is we can go to the x-axis and we can get rid of the labels since we don't need those. So we're going to choose none. And there we go. So to do the lower whisker, what we're going to do is we're going to go into Design, select Data. We're going to add one, series name, low whisker 1 for group 1. The x-axis values are 1, and the y-axis values are going to be these right here. And here we have our lower whisker. Now, we want to do a couple of things here. So the first thing is we're going to change this to black. We want a black line and we want it to be hatched. So we're going to choose that. Now the other thing is we want to have, if you look back at the example here, we want to have these caps in the end. So the way you do that is you select this series and you come up here to marker and you go to marker options and you choose this one right here, the line. We're going to say that this is, we want this to be a black color just so that it matches the line. And there we go. But you can see that we have the data points, or I'm sorry, the markers on both ends, which we don't want. We only want this marker here. So we click on that. And if you click a second time, you're going to select just this one marker. If you come up here and choose marker, options, none, it'll get rid of just that one marker. So now we have our lower whisker just like we want it. And again, we can modify the color, the width of this, the way the marker looks. We can have it a triangle, a circle, a square, whatever we want. So running up and adding the rest of these in, we're going to go ahead and do our high whisker. Data set 1. We're going to put the X values in. We're going to put the Y values in. And there we have our upper whisker. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did before. So the line color is black. It's hatched. The marker options, we're going to choose this one. It's going to be black fill and black border. And then we're just going to come over here and select just that one marker that we don't want. Come back over here to marker options and choose none. So you kind of get the idea of what we're doing with this. So the median is going to be next. So the way that we do the median is there's two ways you can do this. One way, well, I'll show you. So select data. We're going to add one. We're going to call this median 1. X value is 1. Y value is the median. Now, if you go back here, you can see that the nothing shows up here because it's a single data point. So what you have to do is come up here and choose the series median 1. And we're going to go to, and you can see now it's selected. It's just not visible because it's 1. So we're going to choose marker options. Built in, we're going to have this be a line that is black. So there's our median marker. But from my previous example, we want the median to be a solid line all the way across, which is typical in box and whisker plots that you'll see. So there's two ways to do that. One is you can go up and you can insert, basically draw your own line. So if you hold shift, it'll keep it straight, and you draw it across. You change it to the color black. You make it a little bit thicker, and you move it up and down a little bit to get it to sit directly on top of there. And this I found just it didn't sit quite well because it's not 100% accurate. I don't like drawing in data points or data lines, so I tooled around with this and I found another way to do this. So that's one way. The other way, if you want to be a little bit more exact, is you can play with the values here. And what I did is I'm basically going to draw, it's going to be similar to the box. We're going to draw a vertical line, but we're going to draw a very, very, very short vertical line, about as short as this data point is thick right here. And then we're going to give it a width of 50, and it'll show up as a horizontal line. So you go back up to here, select data. We're going to choose median. We're going to edit that. We're going to get rid of these, and we're going to choose these 3 x-axis values, all the same, value of 1. We're going to choose the y-axis values of these right here. And what I did is the median is negative 0.08. I did just a little bit below that and a little bit above that, which is actually going to give us a line and not a single data point. Because if you increase the marker size, it'll just get bigger and thicker, and then it's not as accurate. So we're going to choose this series, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to marker, and we're going to get rid of the markers because right now it doesn't look like anything because the markers are there. And if you choose line, we're going to choose a black line. If you see right here, you have what looks like a very, very short and skinny vertical line. But we're going to change that by giving this a width of 50. And then again, we're going to change this from round to flat. And there you have your median line, which is now exact, because if you go an equal amount above and below the median, you're going to get, it's just going to give you just enough room to make an actual vertical line. You're just going to make that vertical line very, very, very wide. So if we want to make this line a little bit skinnier, we can do negative 0.088. We're going to do negative 0.088, and then we're going to do negative 0.078 if I can add correctly. And there, it made it a little bit skinnier. So if we want to, but you get the idea. To make it a little bit thicker or skinnier, I'm sorry, this should be 2. There. Now we have 2 above and 2 below the median, which gives us a very skinny line, which is what we're looking for. But again, this is a vertical line, a very short vertical line. It's just has a width of 50. So now you have the width, which is exactly the same as the width of the box, and you don't have to be tooling around with moving back and forth if you draw on a line and getting it to fit exactly. And then if you put it on presentation mode, it doesn't sit right. This is just a little bit more exact. So now the next thing and the final thing are the outliers. And so we're going to go up to design. We're going to select data. We're going to add a series. We're going to call this outliers 1. The x-axis values are going to be the same for all of them, which is 1. And we're going to choose all the values. And remember, negative 0.55 is an actual data point. I threw in these other 2 just to give us 3 outliers versus 1. Now, again, this is showing up as a vertical line. So what we want to do is select that. We're going to go to line, and choose no line. And then we're going to go to marker options, and we're going to have these be a circle with no fill and a solid black border. And there you go. So you get the idea. This is just multiple series of vertical lines that are have just different characteristics so that it displays like this. With the data are accurate, and you have several options to make this look however you want. So we did this for group number 1, which is all the data here. If you want to do more, you wash, rinse, repeat over and over again, and eventually you can have something like this. And again, the benefit of this over Excel 16 is you can fully modify these, the colors, the shape of, or the shape of the data points, the data markers, the characteristics and colors of the lines, and you can also modify the whiskers and the positioning of the whiskers, and basically everything with this. And with Excel 16, you're kind of limited with those 2 things. So this is the short version, or at least it's a little bit shorter. It's not 40 minutes, but yeah. So any suggestions, comments? If you have an easier way to do this, if there's a better, easier, whatever, quicker way to do this, go ahead and feel free to share. If you have any other questions on what I did with something specific, go ahead and leave a comment. So thanks for watching.